Unfiltered.
I'm not sold. I'm sorry.
Unapologetic.
I'm not trying to talk about him.
Unlike anyone else.
But knowing y'all
will probably make me.
This is the Stephen A. Smith Show.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you as I love to do every weekday over the airwaves of SiriusXM Mad Dog Sports Radio, Channel 82. The number to call up, as always, is 888 Mad Dog 6. That's 888-623-3646. 888 Mad Dog 6. That's 888-623-3646. And as I always tell you, that's not the only way to reach me. If you want to leave a voicemail message because you don't feel like waiting online all the damn time to talk to me directly, live and in living color, and then some, you can always go to SiriusXM.com/GetSirius to send in your voicemail messages. Once again, that's SiriusXM.com/GetSirius. You can even leave your phone number. And in the event that I like what you had to say enough, I'd actually call you back and bring you on the show. So keep that in mind and keep it all in mind. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot to get into today. There's some NFL games that took place last night. One was with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going up against the Houston Texans and weeding out that victory 20-19. Another was with the Los Angeles Chargers going up against the Las Vegas Raiders and them neutralizing Geno Smith and Pete Carroll on his birthday, nevertheless. And ultimately, the Chargers are 2-0 in the AFC West. There's a lot to get into in regards to that. There's a lot to get into in regards to some of the other games that we may have missed on discussing that took place over the weekend, particularly Sunday afternoon and Sunday night. So we can get into all of that as well. And of course, there's the great one, Tom Brady, the GOAT, the 7-time Super Bowl champion quarterback who's now a minority owner with the Las Vegas Raiders, seen in the booth, in the coaching booth, with headphones on last night. Some people have no problem with it whatsoever. Other people have a big time problem with it. We'll get into all of that as the show progresses, but we know that this is me and we live in different times, and unfortunately, on far too many occasions, pundits, commentators, broadcasters, hosts, etc., find themselves just as relevant in the news cycle as the athletes and the sports that we cover. And that's what's going on today, as it involves Miss Molly Qerim, longtime host for ESPN's First Take, my day job, where she has been the last 10 years. Last night, she abruptly resigned as the host of the show. And to say that I'm quite sad about it is an understatement. Molly is a friend. Molly is a coworker. Molly is somebody that I have leaned on many occasions in the past, as she has done when it comes to me. We've been partners on the show for the last 10 years. And a lot of times, some of these things happen, and it's just uncomfortable to see. The details, quite frankly, are none of y'all business. But it's not as if I know all the details. It was a contract negotiation that was going on. ESPN certainly did not want to lose her. But in the end, rather, she made a decision to walk away from the show effective immediately. As you see from her Instagram post, her Instagram story last night, after much reflection, I've decided it's time to close this incredible chapter and step away from First Take. Hosting this show has been one of the greatest honors of my career. Every morning I had the privilege of sharing the desk with some of the most brilliant, passionate, and entertaining voices in sports, and with all of you, the best fans in the world. To be blunt, it came as a shock. I was not aware that this is something that she was contemplating doing. But in the end, she made her decision. And we have to move on as a show. I don't like it. I'm not happy about it because I appreciate her and what she has meant to me, what she has meant to the show, what she has meant to the network, what she's meant to the business. And I'm going to miss her. It's just that simple. But we all make decisions that we deem to be in our best interest for whatever reason. And that story is for her to tell. Do I have an idea? Of course I do. Am I going to share it with you? No. Because, again, that's her story to tell. But I do think it's important that I started off the show by just acknowledging my love and appreciation for her and what she's meant to me and what she's meant to the show. Because over the years, over the last decade or so, the things that we've accomplished, she was right. She was right there. And we could talk about me being the star of my daily television show. We could talk about the contributors that have been stars as well. We can even talk about me doing this show right now. You know, it's a hell of a lot easier to have a second job when the first job is made so easy because you're working with somebody that makes it easy for you. And that's what she did for me personally. And so because of that, I just wanted to wish her the best, let her know the love is always here from myself, from my personal assistant and my right hand, Sumatra, my security, Juvie, and my sister Carmen, and so many people that have loved her and loved on her over the years. We've got nothing but love for her. Having said that, I want to move on to a broader subject in regards to this. And this part is not about Molly. This part is about this industry, because I know there's a lot of people that look at sports and, you think you can do this every day. News for you. You can't wake up and be Mad Dog Russo. You can't wake up and be Adam Shine. You can't wake up and be Stephen A. It takes work. It's not just about what you know. It's about what you know about your audience and how to deliver a product to an audience that they're receptive to and they want to embrace and they want to magnetize themselves to moving forward. We're looking at an age with podcasting, folks with their own YouTube channel, everybody aspiring to be their own boss and make their own decisions. But in the end, we all have people to answer to. And I know this subject is piggybacking off of what has transpired with Molly's abrupt resignation per se. But it is important to point out that guess what? It doesn't have to be about her. But when you have negotiations and you're talking with people and you're going back and forth and you're hearing things that you may not want to hear or feeling things you may not want to feel, even though you're valued, even though people acknowledge those kind of things, we live in a world where we have to grow up. And again, I'm not talking about Molly here, but I'm watching, and I've been watching over the last several years, people in this business fall by the wayside because we forget that all of us ultimately answer to people. We don't get to define our own value. We don't get to define our own worth. We don't get to sit there and summarily say, this is who I am and this is what I'm going to do. And guess what? I don't give a damn what anybody say unless you have the leverage to do it. Because business is all about leverage. And I'm going to take this opportunity talking to this audience, giving you some insight into who I am and how did I think and how I think to make sure you understand where I come from. When you heard me at a time when we were discussing my contract negotiations all over the media and all throughout the sports world, what I talked about was what my worth was based on what the numbers showed. I talked about these are the ratings. This is the revenue. And I talked about, like I wrote in my book, Straight Shooter, a memoir of second chances and first takes, which was a New York Times bestseller, by the way. I said in the book, I wake up with two things every morning. Two thoughts of mine, prevalent most in my mind. How do I make my bosses more money? How do I get some of it? I'm going to repeat that. How do I get my bosses more money? How do I get some of it? Why do I say that? Because every one of us answer to somebody. For those of you out there with a YouTube channel, guess what? YouTube can flag your stuff and limit what you could disseminate to the masses. Over the airways of SiriusXM Radio, I have a beautiful deal with this company. I am incredibly happy. It doesn't escape me that Scott Greenstein is my boss. I work at ESPN. I'm incredibly happy with how I have been treated. Dave Roberts is my boss. Burke Magnus is my boss. Mike McQuaid is my boss. Jimmy Pitaro is my boss. Bob Iger is my boss. This notion that everybody gets to do what they want to do, when they want to do it, how they want to do it, feeling whatever way they want to feel. When you've got your hand out for other people's money, it doesn't work that way. And again, I'm not talking about Molly with all of this. Molly's a separate category. But the reason why I piggybacked off the topic of her to get into a more generalized discussion is because I'm seeing people in this business and beyond falling by the wayside and departing from places they don't need to depart from because their excellence at what they do is prevalent and relevant and flagrant. And they should be here. But it can all evaporate in a snap if you lose perspective. And you forget that everybody, and I mean everybody, answers to somebody. There's a beast that has to be fed. And along the way, sometimes it calls for you to make sacrifices you may not otherwise want to make. And what changed my life for the better, that made me a better professional, that made me a better man, was when I woke up and realized my primary objective in the world of business, in the capitalistic society that we live in, is to make somebody money and to be able to get some of it. Because nobody gets to take it all for themselves. Even the bosses have to surrender resources and assets to people that are under them to make sure everything flows efficiently and fluidly. That's the world we're living in. And you know, when you make moves, when I sat up there and I talked about what my worth was, it's because I knew I had leverage. Because I had other opportunities. You don't say stuff like that when you don't. I did. At that time. That doesn't mean that's going to be the case 5 years from now. Doesn't mean it's going to be the case 10 years from now or 15 years from now. Or it was the case 20 years ago or 15 years ago when I was fired. But in that moment, that was my time. At some point in time, all of us, and this part includes Molly, frustrations come with everything in the world of business. There will never be 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There will never be a time when all of those hours, days, weeks, months, and years are clean, devoid of stress and strain that wears you down. But you have to make a decision as to whether or not it is going to break you. Don't ever be broken. Don't ever let the system break you because the system is indiscriminate. It's always coming for you. And it's there to break you, to create opportunities for others who may be less deserving than you, just because they had the intestinal fortitude and the wherewithal to deal with what you couldn't deal with. That applies to Molly, that applies to Stephen A., that applies to every single one of you out there. Most of what I said has nothing to do with Molly's situation. I'm just reflecting on it retrospectively because of so many people that I see in the world of business derailing their own selves because they can't deal with a stress and strain that's inevitable for us all in the world of business. I just wanted to take a moment to touch on that, to start off the show, because I'm living really good right now. My life is cool. But to whom much is given, much is required. And I got so much love for so many people out there. Molly's going to be just fine. She's terrific. And she's a marvelous human being who is loved by me and everybody at First Take. And so many people within the walls of ESPN and Disney. I can't even tell you how sad people are today that she's not going to be there any longer. But she always has our love and respect, and we're going to always be there for her. But there's so many others out there watching and thinking about all the other kind of issues that come with our business. Please keep this in mind. Stress and strain comes with everything. The ones who can take it and march forward are the ones who survive and prosper. The ones who can't endanger their ability to do that. 888 Mad Dog 6 is the number to call up. That's 888-623-3646. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, Sirius XM Mad Dog Sports Radio. Another subject I wanted to get into before I got to the calls, transitioning back to sports, not just sports commentators, pundits, and broadcasters, but actual sports, is Tom Brady. He's not playing any longer, but the 7-time Super Bowl champion is a minority owner for the Las Vegas Raiders, courtesy of private equity and getting involved retired players and stuff like that. Tom Brady is a minority owner for the Las Vegas Raiders. He's also an NFL broadcaster for Fox. After his 23-year playing career, Brady made his Fox debut last season on a 10-year, $375 million contract that he originally agreed to in 2022. But limitations were put on Brady because of his agreement to become a partial owner of the Raiders, a deal that was approved by league owners in October. As a broadcaster, he gets access to other teams' players and coaches that other owners do not. This has raised concerns about a conflict of interest. Okay? Recently, the NFL relaxed some of its restrictions for him in that role, including allowing him to take part in production meetings when a broadcast crew meets with the game's head coaches and key players this season. He must take part in those meetings remotely, and he isn't allowed to attend practices at team facilities. That's much we know. That didn't stop the cynics and the critics from going ballistic last night when he was seen in a booth, in the coach's booth, with headphones on, because a lot of people out there believe this gives him an unfair advantage because his access to players, his access to coaches, all right, puts him in a position that most other owners can't be in. Not just for the purposes of recruitment, but also for the purposes of having insight that he can then turn around and give to the Raiders when the Raiders are scheduled to go against an opponent that he may have already talked to and got insight from. And everybody's raising holy hell. I'm not going to say it's not significant. I'm not going to say that it's not something that folks should complain about. What I am going to say, however, is that we can't point the finger at Tom Brady. You turning down 10 years, $375 million? Raise your hand if you are, because I'm not. You turn that down? I'm not turning it down. And on top of it all, he's a part owner. You turning that down? I'm not turning that down. The NFL is a cash cow. It's a money machine. It's printing dollars. So not only does he have this contract with Fox, he's going to make even more money as an owner of an NFL franchise because the value only elevates. I remind you, Dallas Cowboys, worth $13 billion. Jerry Jones himself worth $16 billion. Number 2 franchise in the NFL is the Los Angeles Rams. They're worth about $10.5 billion. Number 3 franchise in the National Football League is the New York Giants. They're worth about $10.1 billion, according to Forbes. So taking all of those things into consideration, I don't know if it's Forbes or Sportico, by the way, but it's one of them. The point is, those are all the kind of things that you got to be worried about. Those are all the kind of things you got to think about. Knowing that, we have to think about those kind of things. And we have to ask ourselves, okay, should Tom Brady be doing this? I'm like, what you looking at him for? That's a Fox decision. That's an NFL decision. If the NFL says it's cool and Fox says it's cool, you're an opposing coach, you're an opposing player, you know he's a part owner for the Las Vegas Raiders, be careful about what you tell him. In terms of anything else, if you got a play-by-play dude like a Joe Buck with Troy Aikman, or somebody like that, guess what? Or Mike Tirico with a Chris Collinsworth, guess what? Tirico or Joe Buck's going to get the information anyway. And Tom Brady, being a 23-year NFL veteran and a 7-time Super Bowl champion who's played in 10 Super Bowls, is going to have the wherewithal and the knowledge to deduce what he can use and what he can't use based on this conversation with them alone with watching film of the games. He'll be fine. I'm not going to say as much ado about nothing, but do I think it's overblown? A tad bit. Those are my thoughts. What are yours? 888 Mad Dog 6 is the number to call up. That's 888-623-3646. Once again, 888 Mad Dog 6. That's 888-623-3646. You are listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, Sirius XM Mad Dog Sports Radio. Keep in mind, you want to send in a voicemail. SiriusXM.com/GetSerious is the way to go. That's SiriusXM.com/GetSerious. More of the Stephen A. Smith Show, Mad Dog Sports Radio, Channel 82, with your calls and then some in a minute.